Hello developers. If you have been following my channel, you know we have already explored the basics of Java streams and how to create them in 9 different ways. But today we are taking it up a notch. This is not just yet another tutorial on stream operations. It is a practical demonstration using a real project like structure, a structure every Java developer should know. We will dive into filter, map and flatMap operations to show how these operations work in professional code bases. And don't worry, we'll cover rest of the stream operations in upcoming videos. So stay tuned and let's get started. Well, we will work with 3 key model classes: employee, department and address. These will mimic real world entities with complete relationship and data fields. The relationship among these entities is like employee belongs to a department and has an address. So in a real project structure, your top layers like application layer or API layer will always interact with service layer. It won't directly interact with database layer. Service layer talks to repository layer to perform database centric operations. A repository layer facilitates the required data to the service layer. It may query database or it may access data from files and provides it to the service layer. So at the end, service layer provides the requested data back to the user of the service, which could be top layer like application layer or API layer. This is a standard setup which segregates responsibility of retrieving data from database, processing the data and facilitating to the consumers of the data. This helps us build loosely coupled applications, which is a very important point we are covering here. So to show this, I have created a simple real world project like structure. We will have a database proxy layer with static data. It represents the database layer. This acts as a database for us. There will be a repository layer simulating the database interactions and a service layer which processes this data by implementing stream operations. We'll implement these operations step by step. So highlight of the learning outcome by end of this video series on Java streams is that you will not only master the stream APIs but also understand how to integrate it into a professional code base. Whether you are a beginner or preparing for interviews, this is going to be a game changer for you. So let's start. To start with, let's understand the basic project structure that I have created. You can see that I have created a new package called as part 3, where I have 3 main packages model, which consists of all the models we are going to use in this video. Then there is a package called as repositories, where we have department repository and employee repository along with the database proxy class that we have created. Lastly, we have a services package where we have employee and department services. Stream operations demo is another class which is basically the consumer or application layer for us, which uses the service layer as we discussed earlier. Let's look at the models that we have used. So I have created an employee class which represents an employee entity basically, and it has member variables like employee will have ID, name, address. Then employee will have multiple skills, so it is list of strings. Then employee will belong to some department, so from employee to department has a relationship. Employee will have salary and experience in years. By default we have given it as 0. I have a all argument constructor over here, parameterized constructor, which creates an employee. Then I have getters and setters. Then I have overridden posting so that we can print a employee directly. So looking at department, it represents department entity and it has ID and name, and it has getter, setters and poststring. Then employee lives at a particular address. Address is another entity that we are going to see. It will have address line 1, then city, state and country. I have taken these as strings, and to make our code simpler, I have created some constants for some of the for the countries, for the states and for the cities, so that we can use them directly. So these are, you can see that I have declared them as static and final. So using class name directly you can use this particular city or this particular state or a country. Again, it will have a parameterized constructor, all argument constructor. Now you can see that I have created static utility methods to create address objects. So these are the factory methods which I have created. For example, I want to create address in India. So I know that India is the country and I just need to provide 3 more parameters in order to create address in India. Similarly, you can give a state. Maharashtra is in India, so I know state and country here. So I just need to take address line 1 and city from the user. There is another variant which is address in a particular city. So I know that Mumbai is in Maharashtra, which is in India. So I know 3 parameters over here. So you just provide address line 1 and it will create address in Mumbai, address in Pune, or address in New York. Right? So these are the conventional methods or the factory methods which I have provided in order to create address objects, and shortly we will see how I have used them. Again, there are getters and setters for properties or member variables of address. Well, as I have already described earlier, we will have a service layer. I'm going to start with the employee service first. So service layer always uses a repository layer. What I have done is I have created a repository object. You can notice that it is a private to the service. So even if the application layer which creates a service layer cannot directly access the repository layer under it. So service has to facilitate functionalities which are offered by repository layer by means of providing some interfaces or the methods. Right? For example, I have given signature of few methods in order to implement them in this particular video. For example, this method get employees by name contains. What does this method do is it gets a list of employees whose name contains a given parameter string. For example, name contains ABC. So it will give all the employees whose name contains ABC. So find by city, you want to get all the employees who are living in a particular city, and so on. So we will go through all the methods and we will implement these methods. Then we have employee repository, which is nothing but a dummy repository layer which interacts with the database directly. So do we have database for this demo? No. We have a proxy database which acts like a database to us. What does that mean? I have created static and final variable employees over here, which is nothing but collection of all the employees. So I have added 12 employees over here in this database with different scenarios, with different name, different addresses, different skill sets and different departments, different salaries, and having different experiences. Again, you can see how I have effectively used static factory methods in order to create the objects. So you can see that this get employees will return the collection of employees in this particular list. Now there are instances when I want to create employee object. What I want is I want list of skills. So how I have created it is by offering static methods. You can see that this method is static and the name of the method is Java developer skills. What I have done is I have just created an array of all the Java developer skill set. So this is the example skill set which we are considering over here, Java Spring Boot Hibernate, right? Similarly for Java full stack React developer. So Java full stack React, that developer will have these 3 skills plus what I have done, I have added core web development skills, which is another method which has JavaScript, HTML, CSS and HTTP. So these skills are again added, plus I'm adding React to it. There is another method for Angular which adds additionally Angular to the whole skill set, and so on, right? Like I have provided for HR department some sample HR skill sets, recruitment, screening and onboarding. Then HR manager skills. So what HR manager skills are? All the core HR skills plus people management. That's how these factory methods are available for us to group all the relevant skills, and these are reusable. One more point to note here, all this code will be available in the GitHub repository. The link of this GitHub repository will be in the description, so don't worry, you can always download or clone this code. Now this is a proxy class. We saw the repository layer and now the service layer, which will use a particular repository, and we will be calling the repository layer for getting particular data from it, and we'll process that data. That's how our structure would be. We will create a service layer class over here and we will start calling these methods, and we will test output of those methods in the stream operations demo class. So this acts as our application. Let's start with streams filter operation. Let's consider a scenario where we have a requirement of getting all the employees from database whose name contains a specific substring. For example, name contains EE, get me all those employees. We want to write such a method. Now this stream operation demo, as we know, is having main method, so it is a client or application layer for us. And what we know is application layer will always invoke the service layer. So we need to create such a method in service layer which will return us all the employees with given substring. So what service layer should do? It should call repository layer for the operation on database, and repository layer will query the database. That's the setup that we are going to implement. Okay, first thing first, let's go to the service layer. So if you just traverse to the service layer, I have given signature of this method get employees by name contains. So how it will be done is by calling the employee repository, and in employee repository what we need to do is we have a same method find by name contains, and we need to implement this. So the actual logic will go here, and from service layer we will just call this method. So let's do this setup first. My service layer already has this private employee repository object, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm removing this to do, and I'm just calling repository layer and dot find by name contains. We are just passing that argument to the method in employee repository which is designed for the same purpose, and whatever result it returns, we are returning the same back to the caller of the service. This implementation is done. Now what we need to do is I'm doing control click to go to the particular method. We need to implement this method. We will just check some records in the database proxy. You can see that it has a name field. These are all employees, and then it has a name field, and if name contains a given substring, we want to filter that out. For example, EE is an argument which is sent. So I want to find out all the employees who are having EE in the name. So these two records should be selected in this case. So what I'll do is we will just create instance of a service. Let's say I can have that as a static variable, private. I'm declaring it as private because it is only limited to this class. It is static because I just want one instance of this service in my client. Employee service. I need to create that instance. So what I'll do, new employee service, and what we want to do is I want to call this employee service dot get employees by name contains, and I'm passing EE to it. So what I'm expecting over here is this method will return me list of all the employees who contain EE in their name. So this part of setup is done as it is list, and we know that we can open a stream and we can call a for each method, and we can give a method reference to println so that it will print the particular employee. Fine, it will call a service layer and service will call a repository layer, but currently it is null. So let me just run this code and see what happens. So it threw null pointer exception because we are returning null from the repository. We are going to implement this now, and how we are going to do it is I'll just remove this statement. I'll remove the return null statement as well. So what we have is we have an employee repository, and if you observe the database proxy class, it has a static field employees, but it is a private, so you need to call a public get employees method which returns those employees. So what I'm doing, database proxy dot get employees. I got all the employees. Now what I want to do is, as it is a list, I can open a stream on the list of employees, and I want to basically filter out all those employees whose name contains this given text. So I'm calling a filter method on the stream. Let's observe what filter method takes as an argument. So if you see, filter method takes a predicate as an argument. What is this T? T is nothing but a generic type. In our case, it is employee. So predicate of employee it will be. And what is predicate? Predicate is nothing but a boolean returning function which takes an argument and returns a boolean. So it is quite simple that we are going to provide a predicate such that our requirement fulfills, that given name contains particular text. Let's write a predicate is an employee, and I want to access name of it. It is a string and it has contains method whether name contains the particular text. So this contains returns boolean, and so this lambda expression matches signature of the predicate, that it returns a boolean. So what will happen? Filter will filter all those employees whose name contains the given text. Now that's what we want, and what we want to do is we want to return list of employees back. How we can do that is we can call a collect method on stream. This is filter is a intermediate operation. So we need to call a terminal operation collect to get list back. So now what we need to do is we need to return that list, right? So I'm returning that list. So that's straightforward. And let's just test. From employee service, we are calling this method and we are printing all the elements out here. So let's run it and see if we get desired result. If you see, it returns two employees back. It's Priti and another employee with name Pradeep. So both these records matching the filter condition. That's filter method. We are going to practice some more examples as well. I'm in repository class again, and I'll just scroll down to the next method. And what we are doing here is get list of employees living in a given city. So find by city is something we are going to implement. Now we know how to use filter method. We have already seen it. So let me just do the same thing. Database proxy dot get employees will return all the employees. Then I'm going to open a stream on it and I'm applying a filter method. So how we can find city of an employee? So if I go to employee has no city field directly. It has an address field, and in address you have city. So you need to access address object first, and through address you can access city. So let's go back to the repository, and this time we are writing lambda like employee dot get address, and address has a city. So get city, and now you can do equals. It will do the content equality. It will match given city. Again, I want collectors.toList. It will return list of all the employees who are satisfying this predicate. Fine. Now we will go back to the service layer, and in service layer you will see there is another method I have declared. I have given prototype of this method. So what I need to do is, now you will understand it. It is quite simple. I will call a employee repository dot find by city, and I am giving city over here. In service layer we will call methods with verb get instead of find. Now let's test this method. Okay, let me just copy this print statement and modify a little. Employee service dot get by city and address dot city Mumbai. And again I'll copy these two statements because I just want to print these two things. If you notice, there is a for each on list as well. So you need not open stream for that. You can apply for each on list as well. This time we will take this approach, and now we will see if it prints all the employees in Mumbai. So let's just run the code and see. Okay, just so getting employees living in Mumbai and Rajesh, Priti, Avani, Pradeep and Vivansh. You can see that their address has city field as Mumbai, and it has correctly filtered these records out. This is working out well. So we know how professional code structure should be and how we are going to implement the methods going forward. We are going to practice a map method of stream, and we are going to see how it is to be used. What I have here is I have a method get employees having skill. Given a skill, I want to find out all the employees of that particular skill. But this time, if you observe, return type is EMP department DTO. A DTO, that is data transfer object, is a simple Java class that is used to transfer data between different layers like an application or API layer to service layer and vice versa. Employee department DTO, it has some specific fields which I want in my response. So I have employee ID, employee name, department, skills, salary and city. So if you look at this DTO, basically what we have is we have a parameterized constructor with all the required fields, and we have a getter and setter. We are going to write one more method here. So all these fields can be created using employee object, right? So from employee you can get employee ID, employee name. Employee has a department, so from that department you can get name. Then employee has a skills, employee has a salary, and employee has an address which has a city, right? So from employee you can basically derive this particular object. That's what we are going to do. So what I can do is I can write a constructor, and to the constructor itself what I can do is I can pass a employee object, and from this what I need to do is I need to derive all the fields. So what are the fields are, I'm just copying this and we will change the assignments. that's how we can create EMP-DPT, employee department DTO object from employee object. So in a while you will understand why we have created this constructor like this. Well, going back to the service layer where we have prototype of this method, which is get employees having a skill. As we already know, we will have such a method in the repository. We'll implement that and we will just return the result in the service layer. So this is employee repository dot. Do we have any method? Yes, find by skill is the method, and pass the given skill out here. What does it do? See, it returns list of employees, right? So what service layer needs to do is it needs to convert all those employees to employee department DTO objects. So first what we will do is, let this error be there. We will first implement this method in the repository layer. So usually repository layer is not supposed to return employee DTO. It should only return employee object. It should only operate on given entities, right? And service layer will do mapping and stuff like that. So how we will do it? We will just match a skill and return all the employees at this level. We have database proxy.get employees. So you know the deal. What we have is a string dot. We have a filter operation. We want to match the skill, but this time it is a little tricky, because if you observe an employee, skill is a list, and in that particular skill you want to match, or you are to filter a specific skill, right? So filtering an employee in such a way that we are getting skills, and skills is list of string, right? So it is a collection, and collection has contents method which searches for given element. And what is the element? It is a skill, and we want to collect the result over here, and that's it. This will return all the employees having a specific skill, and now the job is half done. What we need to do is, in service layer we need to basically convert all these employees to employee DTOs. That's the error you are going to see. Required type is list of employee department DTO. However, the provided type is list of employees, and we know this. And we will apply a map operation. Now we will see what is map operation. I'll just click on map and it brings us to the Java docs. So what does map take? Map takes a function, mapper function. What is a function? You can see function has two generic types. One type is it takes as an argument, and another type is what it returns. So it takes one argument and it returns some other type. So what argument in our case it is taking is an employee argument, and what we want to return is an employee DTO. So this is what we want to do. We want to map employees to employee DTO. Such kind of lambda we need to write over here. So quite straightforward. So we have E, that is employee, and we need to map it to employee DTO. And now you will understand why I created such a constructor which takes employee object and it creates employee DTO. So we will basically create object employee DTO, and you can pass that E over here. And why is it complaining? Again, we haven't collected the result. So as soon as we collect the result, what happens is it returns list of all employee department DTO objects. So this is quite simple. Now you will understand how it works, and we can optimize this lambda further. You can watch our videos on functional interfaces and lambda expressions to master writing lambdas. So I can also provide constructor reference over here. Employee department DTO : new will give a constructor reference, and it will also serve the same purpose. And let's try this out now. I will call a service layer in my application layer, get employees having skill, and I'll pass react to it, and again it will return a list, and I'll just print. So I'm just checking if I have declared toString over here. No, there is no toString. So what I'll do is I'll generate toString quickly. So going back to the stream operations demo, yes, we have this functionality implemented. We have used filter, map, and collect methods of stream effectively here, and let's run this code and see. So who all knows React is Priti, Shiven and Vivansh. We have implemented map as well, and we understand that map is for transforming from one object to other object. Going back to service layer, now we have a next method which is nothing but get highly paid employees. So we are in a service layer. We will call relevant method in the repository layer. So employee repository dot, we have it by department ID and minimum salary. So this is the method, find by department ID and salary greater than. So department ID you can give as a past department ID and minimum salary is the past minimum salary. And again we want to map it to employee department detail. How do we do that is, let's open a stream, apply a map operation, E, map this E to new employee department detail of E, and finally we will collect a list and pass the result. We see that we can even replace with method or constructor reference over here. Fine, service layer is done. What we need to do is we need to implement repository layers this method. We are going to find out all the employees whose salary is greater than this minimum salary in given department. This time we need to apply a filter on department ID and minimum salary. And what we need to do is we need to just return the list of employees. So yes, that is again got implemented. So it will return all the employees in given department and having salary greater than the given salary. So let's test this method out. Again, what we can do is HR department. So ID is department ID is 2. ID equal to 2 and salary. So what will be the good criteria to filter out? So you can see HR. So there are a couple of employees in HR department and I want to see, so one salary is 55,000, 95,000, then we have 150k, then we have 140k. So let's select 100k as a number. So these two employees will be selected from HR department. Yeah, there is no other employee who is having salary greater than 100k. Greater than 100k. So these are the highly paid employees in that particular department. So again, employee service dot get highly paid employees, and in which department? Department number 2. And what is the salary range that I want to search is 100k or 1 lakh. Let's run this. We have got the implementation, and as we saw, we should get 2 employees satisfying this criteria. So what we will do is we'll just give some separator so that it is visually better to read output. Yeah, looks good. Again, I'll end with the dots. Let's run this now. We will see the output. So let's see the last invocation in HR department and salary greater than 100k. These are employee ID 8 and 9 who are having salary 150k and 140k respectively, and that is what the result was expected. So you can just play around. Let's say you want that 95,000 guy included in here. So I'll just modify that criteria as, let's say, 85,000. Okay, so salary greater than 85,000 will be selected. I'll just run this code, and now we should get 3 employees from HR department. And yes, 95,000 guy is selected in this range, and that's how the filter and map are used effectively over here. Okay, so calculating average salary for a given department. Here we can use map to double in order to map particular salary to double and calculate average. I'm skipping this method. You can try implementing this on your own because I want to demonstrate flatMap method to you. Now what is flatMap method? To demonstrate that, what I've done is I have added one method in the service layer. It is get skills by department ID. So what does that mean is you want to get all the distinct skills for all employees in given department. So we need to implement this method get skills by department ID. And how we can do that is, again, we are filtering based on department ID. e dot get department dot get id equals given department id, and I just collect and return the list back. So we are in repository, so it should return the employees. It should only deal with entity classes. Going back to the employee service, so this will return us all the employees in given department. Employee service will basically do the processing part. So what is the logic? We have to get all the skills, that is the skill capacity for given department. Let's do that. We will call employee repository dot find skill by department id. We will give the department id. So basically open a stream, and if you just try to collect to the list, it is not list of employees. This will return list of employees back. So what if I just try to map a particular employee to the skill? So again, if you see, it will return list of string. In other words, what it is doing is, it is the complicated structure of list of string, and what I just want is a list of string. So in this case, we want to flatten this structure out. We don't want a list of string or stream of list of string here. So how we can flatten that out is by using flatMap method. So flatMap method is designed just for this. Okay, so it is flatMap method, and we will see how it works. So we will just go to the definition of flatMap method, and what it returns is nothing but it returns stream of R. It doesn't return R this time, it returns stream of R. Okay, it is a function itself. Function is, it takes one type and returns another. So it takes employee type and it returns stream of some type. That is the simple meaning of it. So what it returns is stream of something, but this is a list, and how we open stream from a list? By calling stream method, and that's how you can basically use flatMap. So what it will do is, it will just flatten this structure out. If you just notice it here, it returns stream of strings instead of stream of list of strings, which map method was returning. So it has flattened the structure out. All the elements are in a single stream now, and you are collecting it to a list and returning it. We'll see output of this method call. There are still few cases we need to handle. I'll go to stream operation demo in a HR department, let's say. So we know the department ID is 2. How we can give a call to it? We know that we will use a service layer. We have an employee service dot get skills by department ID, and what department ID we are going to send is 2, which is a HR department. Now again, I'm just opening a stream and we are just calling for each, and we are giving a method reference to println. Again, we need not open a stream, access for each of a collection itself. Let's see the output, and then we will discuss why the output is like that. Okay, let's run the code. If you see, it has returned all the skills, but it hasn't returned distinct skills, right? These are getting duplicated. So how you can return a distinct skill? There are plenty of ways in which you can basically get distinct skills. You have a distinct method in stream itself, which returns all the distinct elements. So let's see if this works. We will run the same code again, and we will see if there are distinct elements sent. So we also learnt about distinct method. Fine. So that's how we work with more complicated code bases, where you have service layer which talks to your repository layer, which in turn queries some database, and that's how the complications are handled in professional code bases. If there are any confusions, just go through the video one more time to understand how we have structured the code and how we are basically writing the code. Try out few things by yourself and you'll start understanding all these concepts. Okay, I hope you found this video useful. We'll see you soon in next stream operations video. Till the time, happy learning and happy coding. Bye bye.